Jennifer saw self-publishing as this enormous mountain of Everest proportions. And the reason is because when she was thinking about self-publishing and Googling it, she saw that there were thousands of steps and choices that you could make in the self-publishing process that made the whole thing very confusing. And that's the reason why in today's video, I'm going to tell you how to self-publish your book step by step 2022. This is Chris Baird from selfpublishingmadeeasynow.com, where self-publishing doesn't have to be so hard. The thing it was several months ago, and Jennifer, she was on Quora, and she had a whole series of questions, and that's when she approached me with regards to her very first novel. Now, her first novel, it's in a fantasy world with fairies and other things like that. But the question was, after she had written it, which she had completed, what does she do with it next? And that was a huge challenge that she had. She wanted to get the book onto Amazon and into the market so that people could actually buy the book. But the problem is she had heard there were issues with going with hybrid publishers or trying to go through the hassle of getting a traditional publisher to pick up and to publish her book. She started to Google the whole self-publishing option, and that made things even more difficult because she saw that there were so many steps in self-publishing, which made her begin to wonder if this was even possible. Well, the thing is that she wasn't just going to let her manuscript just sit there without ever getting published. In addition, she had a whole series of other books and novels in the same fairy fantasy world that she wanted to get onto the market. But what was the problem? The thing is she began to think, I don't have the energy and maybe the technical know-how to go through these thousands of steps on self-publishing. I don't really want to go with the hybrid publishing option, and she knew the traditional publishing was going to be too big of a mountain that was going to be difficult for her on her very first book in order to go that route. So the very first thing she did was she checked out a little bit more about the hybrid publishing route. And the thing was, she discovered that these hybrid publishers end up controlling everything about the book. They're going to have it on their sales dashboard on Amazon. They're going to have it, you're not going to be able to see it. You're completely dependent upon them telling you how many sales were made or weren't made. Once they've got the money from you, they suddenly are not so interested in maintaining contact and seeing how things are going. Rather, it's only about upselling. She also saw that many people who had gone that route wanted to change things with their books, and that also triggered some problems because that would charge you $100 per each one. And then when the books weren't selling at all, they'd say, okay, we can for $1,000 have a marketing package to sell. And this was simply something she didn't want to get into. And one final one on this hybrid side, she tried to find forums of people who were so happy with the results that they went back multiple times on this whole thing, and she was having difficulty finding any forums of these people. They could find people on the sales pages that would give testimonials, but when it came to the actual afterwards, it just seemed like many of them were not coming back again. It was like a one and done. They tried it one time and it simply didn't work. So the second thing she decided was, what if I just take my manuscript as is and upload it, and let Amazon do its own little cover or these sorts of things. And the problem was it was getting rejected. Her manuscript was getting rejected by Amazon. So trying the easy, quick route or the free route there, it also wasn't particularly working because she was thinking, well, the steps are just too advanced. I'm never going to be able to figure out all of these steps involved in self-publishing on Amazon. And so I'll just see if I can just throw it out there and see if that will work. And that simply did not work. And that was when she contacted me on Quora and asked the absolute most common question that people ask me on Quora, which is, how do I get my book out onto the market? How do I self-publish this book? What do I need to do? And that was when I explained to her that, well, first I said you should do a discovery session with me, which is what we did. And you can also do a free discovery session. Just check below in the description and we can sit down and look at your situation as well. And so we booked a discovery session on Zoom where we were able to take a closer look at her situation. And I pointed out to her that there are 5 phases when it comes to self-publishing that you're not going to want to ignore. And this is the key step by step when it comes to self-publishing your book in 2022. The first one is planning. And planning means figuring out if there's even a market for your book. If you were to put your book on the market, are people actually going to buy it? And how would you know that? Well, are people buying similar books of your type already? So that's number 1. Number 2, is your market flooded? So are there so many books of your type that it's going to be impossible for you to break through the noise of all these other ones so that your book could get onto that first page when they're searching for a book? Or if you're going to run ads, that the ads, the cost, the cost per ad, the bidding price that you're going to put, is going to have to be so high that it's going to be unreasonable. So we want to make sure in the planning phase that we're choosing not only a profitable niche, but also the keywords that we're using in the title and subtitle. This is the top mistake that self-publishers make on a regular basis. And so that was the first thing. The second thing is creating the content. Now, she had already done this. And so in this case, it would also be creating it and getting the editing done on this particular thing. That's your second major phase. And those are the steps involved there. The third is using formatting. And for the formatting steps, I use Juto, which is my favorite program. You can find my affiliate link in the description to go through this entire process to make it very easy. And then I show people through my formatting course, which you can also find below in the description, on how to use Juto. And I hold your hand and we will go one-on-one if need be as we go back and forth to ensure your book gets formatted into the correct format so that we can get this book onto the market and selling. Then comes our fourth phase, which is the distribution phase. And my policy is I want it in all of the formats. We're first targeting your Kindle book version and your paperback. Now with Juto, it's going to have it available so it'll work great. Your Kindle, your paperback, and your hardcover books all covered with Juto's formatting process. So we'll have all of those under control and we'll get it posted. Then we're going to move on to the audiobook format, which is a lot easier than you may think it sounds. I remember the first time I thought, I was like, I can't possibly get my books into audiobook format. Well, that was a complete incorrect statement. It's not that difficult to get the books into audiobook format, and once we get it over there, but you have to have the Kindle version if you want to get it onto ACX Audible. And so that was one of the next step. But remember, we're not doing all of these at the same time. We're focusing on one phase and one step in that phase at a time. This is the sort of thing we do during the discovery session and where we're breaking it all down. And then the final phase is the marketing phase, and we're going to use paid ads because people are not just looking for your name or your title. They're going to use paid ads, and we're also going to make sure that we're going to use content marketing. And that's the reason I sell a content marketing course below in the description to help you figure out how to do the long term, the cheapest, most profitable way of marketing your books is by having channels that you're marketing it through, where you're creating content on your blog, your podcast, your YouTube channel, any or all of the above. And then we're simply putting this content out on a regular basis, and over years, it's going to take 2 to 3 years, we're going to start to see traffic building up for our specific books. We're going to see more people coming in, getting on our email list, and then we're continuing this process as we go around. It's like turning a crank. It takes a while to get things going, like priming the pump just to get that first water to come out. But then when it starts to come, it comes really, really fast. And this is the key to self-publishing in 2022. And that was what I was telling her. So she decided to start working through these phases here. But then suddenly realized that each phase had multiple layers. Each step could be done because the reality is that each step in these phases can go very, very deep. But then she remembered something I told her, which was our job is not perfection. Our job is each time we go around the phases to get better each time. Our first goal is just to simply move through the steps and get something done that follows those steps. It's not the perfect audiobook. It's not the perfect paperback, but just getting through the steps. That is absolutely the most important thing when we're first getting started. And the thing is that she did move through these steps, and her book is still not finished. She's working through it. But I can tell you one thing. She's no longer experiencing the overwhelm. And that was the biggest thing. And if you talk to my clients, this is the number one issue. It is that you're not going to have this feeling, this deep feeling on your chest pressing that you're being overwhelmed with too many steps. Because really, I only have one thing in mind, and people who have gone through my one-on-one program, self-publishing program, they understand that the one thing we're focused on is what is the next thing? What is the next thing to move the needle forward to get this book published and get this book selling? And then the next question is, what about the next book? You see? And so we're turning this crank as we're moving it through. We're putting more and more books on the market, and each time we're getting better at these steps. And we can, since we're self-publishing, we can go back and fix issues we had on our previous books. Our goal is not perfection. Our goal is simply getting something good enough out there that we can learn how to make it even better. And so this is something that so many people make mistakes on when they're trying to determine which types of books or what they're going to be doing in 2022. And one of the questions that sometimes comes up is this issue of when you're doing, let's say, looking at what profitable books are out there. And many people have found, like within the low content marketing, low content books, that's a thing. I've had a number of students approach me on that exact subject. And that's the reason why you're going to want to check out the dangers of publishing low content books. And I will see you over there.